Hi everyone, I'm Ali GREYMOND. I'm continuing to answer questions that were left under my Instagram post asking you to ask questions if you have any for OCD recovery. So, first question is how can I overcome depersonalization generated by OCD? So, okay, you have to understand that no matter what the theme is, 10 out of 10 OCD feels the same for everybody. Doesn't matter if it's religious OCD or relationship OCD or contamination OCD. 10 out of 10, the person feels like they're paralyzed. They are no longer understanding very much what is happening around them. They're not like plugged in. They're not listening carefully. They're not comprehending, which actually starts a lot of OCD in itself. For example, I don't know if this is your situation here, but a lot of the times people also worry if there's like students or people in important jobs where you have to really pay attention to things. They worry that they're not paying attention because they feel like they're not really like not really present, because everything feels kind of like a blur and only OCD thought feels important. This is how it goes for 10 out of 10 OCD or 9 out of 10 OCD, right? As your anxiety goes down, this feeling of depersonalization will go down also, so it will feel as you go through the recovery, everything will start to feel more real and the depersonalization kind of leaves. um, the only thing I would say also though is that you have to make sure that this doesn't become a theme, because if you start to worry about having this feeling, like feeling depersonalized, this will create an OCD theme on its own, and that's actually a very common theme as well. So just view it as a symptom. Just like when you have OCD, you feel depressed. You don't feel depressed because you have clinical depression. You feel depressed because you are in a depressing situation. It would be abnormal if you felt extremely happy while dealing with OCD, right? So look at it as a temporary thing that's happening because you have OCD. It will pass, and just let it go down as your anxiety goes down. Don't create an an emergency, an urgent situation out of it. Just a symptom, doesn't matter. I'm moving forward. You will see it will start to reduce, and continue to work on your main themes, on your main compulsions, reducing rumination, reducing physical compulsions, if whichever it goes for you, right? Reducing the time you're allowing yourself to analyze. Don't ask, don't Google, don't try to figure it out. Those kinds of things. That's what makes anxiety go down. And once anxiety goes down, then everything else improves with it. Next question is why OCD sometimes makes you think that you won't recover. I think that everybody, with OCD recovery, it's not like a straight up always progress, right? Like if we look at, like if we draw like a line graph, it's not always like a straight arrow up, right? It's like, you take a few steps forward and then you'll take a step back. And when you take a step back, a lot of the times the person gets so focused on that step back that, like, why did I let myself start ruminating? Oh, I'm never going to recover. And you start to have this negative self-talk. But because you know what, and if you don't know what I'm talking about in terms of how OCD works, please listen to my previous videos because it's a lot to cover in each video I'm doing. So I kind of try to do it every few videos. Um, that your brain doesn't really understand what the thought is about, so it's sending you thoughts kind of on autopilot. And if you are sending a negative message that I will never recover, this is so bad, this is so dangerous, I need to protect myself by doing compulsions or by trying to figure it out, you're kind of sending a message that this is important, you know? So, in the situation of, oh, I will never recover, even though that's technically not rumination, it's still a negative thought towards the brain. So, I would say that don't allow yourself to have this negative self talk at all. I'm doing the recovery work. Yes, I had a step back, But mostly I'm moving forward. This week has been better than last week, therefore I will recover. And if this week has not been better than last week, then you have to examine why. Where am I falling down? Is it a certain trigger? Is it a certain situation? And really pushing through on doing the recovery work specifically in that situation to get yourself further in the process of recovery. So exposing yourself more to the trigger, and when you do exposure, obviously you have to do response prevention, so not reacting with fear. So before you even get into the exposure, refusing, like knowing that no matter how bad it gets, and it will get bad, I will not react with fear, and just pushing through that way. And then also, just like I was saying with depersonalization, what if I never recover can be the what if that becomes its own theme. So that's another reason why you can't start having those kinds of uh, ruminations, analyzing, will I recover? Will I not? Let me figure it out. Let me check online. What do people say? Let me ask this person, but this person said this, but this person said that. So who is right? Don't go down that path. I'm doing the work. I feel better this week than last week. Therefore, I will recover. You know. Next question is, hi Ali. How can I overcome HOCD? I've lost my attraction and libido. I've been trying to meditate, and that's helped a bit. And I've been doing exposures on daily basis. So, with that, it's just the rumination. The more you allow yourself to ruminate, the worse this is gonna get. With HOCD, it's generally the rumination is the core problem here. You know, um, because it's the more you think, but what if? But there was this time one situation, or in this one instance I felt this, and you start to just go down this road. So basically you have to say everything to do with HOCD is off limits. I'm choosing to view this as OCD, and I'm choosing to move forward. you know if my anxiety, like, you can do it like this: if my anxiety goes down to a zero, I clearly no longer am anxious, but I still have HOCD like thoughts, right, without the what if. Then I can look at it differently. But for now, I'm looking at it as OCD, you know? So, and I mean anxiety in the overall term, because sometimes people will say, well, I don't have anxiety towards the thought, like the HOCD thought, but I have anxiety overall towards the whole situation. But what if, you know? So there's also a lot of like fine details that you can grab onto because of OCD. Do not. I mean overall. When you get over OCD, when you can say honestly that you have no HOCD, if you still have HOCD like feelings, then you can re-examine it. I've talked to so many people with HOCD. So many, like, I mean, I've been doing this for 10 years, so you can imagine how many people I talk to, you know, and it's never actually, turned out to be true. So it is OCD, but you have to treat it as OCD. No rumination, no analyzing, no Googling, nothing, you know. And in this situation, um, uh, I mean, there is some situations with um, for example, sometimes people will be afraid to watch certain shows that have gay characters, or afraid to go to certain uh, areas of the city because there's more like homosexual population there. You know what I mean? Or like those kinds of things. So they're afraid to drive by there or something like that. That's extremely common. Um, so not doing that kind of avoidance, just living life as you normally would live it, and as these thoughts come in, you're just disregarding. Honestly, this is not different than any other type of OCD. It's just another type of OCD. That's it. Okay, so I'm next question. I'm not gonna read out. It's a little bit. Uh, it's a little bit long, and kind of the story is not really. for YouTube, I think. But again, the person is talking about a situation from when they were younger, and they worry about, again, HOCD again, and what does this mean? And the person's about to get married, and they're worrying about what does this mean? It means nothing. That's HOCD. We can always attach something from, oh, when I was younger, or when I saw this, or when this, or when somebody said this. It doesn't matter. It's OCD. You're disregarding. Stop ruminating. This is the problem, right? Like how you're saying in the question, right? You're scared, you're analyzing, you're ruminating. That is why it's getting worse. That's why it feels more real. You have to stop rumination. If you have to monitor yourself hour by hour, do that. I've been having a lot of crying outbursts and feel really panicky and sad. I can't really describe how I feel. This occurred after a trigger, even though I refused reaction. Is this my subconscious taking over, sending these emotions? Is this normal for OCD? Yes, as long, I would say try to stay busy, um and stay kind of, I mean, it's good to let out emotion, but you know if you let it, if you let yourself, you will just be in bed all day crying endlessly. You got to pull yourself out into the world as much as possible, because you need to refocus your mind on other things. And the only way to refocus your mind on other things is to put yourself out there. And I don't mean to overwhelm yourself with stress or anything like that, but just giving yourself a little bit more to focus on, so you are just doing more things. So, and that will just because the mind is, um it doesn't have endless resources. So if the resources are thrown in OCD, it's not thrown in anything else. If it's thrown on other things, less resources are thrown on OCD. So that will pull you out. And again, 5% by 5%. We're not asking about, it's not a black and white thing. It's not all or nothing. You know what I mean? It's just, you know, every day doing a little bit more. you know 5% today, 10% tomorrow, 15% the next day, and day after day after day you're pushing, you're moving forward, until you get to 100% refusing reaction, 100% refusing compulsions, but really monitoring yourself. So again, in terms of the thoughts, what that looks like is taking, say you take 1 hour out of the day, and you really monitor yourself that for this 1 hour, no matter what, you're not gonna ruminate, no matter what. So the rumination urge will come in. Maybe you'll just like start for a second to ruminate. No, 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 this is my 1 hour, I'm not doing this. you know and then you keep adding time, so add another half hour or another hour, and really monitor. And if you mess it up, then try again. You know what I mean? So restart the timer. Okay, now it starts now. You know what I mean? Until you make it each day that allocated time, because you need to train your brain that this no longer matters. When these thoughts first started to come in, you trained it that these thoughts matter, and now we have to undo that. Um, next, last question I have today is: do you see OCD symptoms getting worse or starting after menopause? Um, And if so, do you find HRT helps? I don't actually see them getting worse, in terms of like specifically after menopause. I do find OCD getting worse um, after any kind of a stressor. So, any kind of a shakeup in the person's life, which menopause would be. Um, a lot of the time, especially if it came on suddenly, you know. You know what I mean? Like, I find that, or unexpectedly, that could trigger it. Just like any other stressful situation can trigger OCD. Generally speaking, most people already kind of had some sort of symptoms of OCD before this time. I find that most of the time people start to notice OCD getting bad around the age of 20. So maybe like 18 to 22 somewhere ish. But from that age forward, any kind of a shakeup can, really obviously make it worse or make it come back and those kinds of things. And that's why it's important for you to understand how OCD works. I find that this is the part that a lot of the doctors are missing, is that you need to know how OCD works. You need to really finish all of these, you know, compulsions, situations that trigger you. You need to get rid of all of them so it doesn't come back later in life. Like I haven't had OCD in the last 10 years. And the reason why I haven't had OCD in the last 10 years is because, when you become an expert in it and you know what it's like, you know what it feels like, it's like it can't rattle you when things happen. And it doesn't mean that you're like you kind of become bulletproof, after you recover, because you just look at everything in life like this, like, you know not reacting, but at the same time we are still human, so you will react to daily life as well, right? But it doesn't there's reaction, and then there's really getting into it and creating OCD, you know so I would say, look at it as it was just a shakeup in your life, that caused it or made it come back, depending on the situation. Now you got to dig yourself out of it. And again, refusing rumination, refusing compulsions, and make sure that next time it doesn't happen again. So finish the recovery. I find that overall, this message is very important, that you need to finish the recovery. Like when I was recovering, I didn't know this, so I was, like I spent a long time being at like 2 out of 10 kind of thing, you know, and you do need to get to a zero, where this thought doesn't matter, not reacting at all, I don't care at all. When you actually start to feel that you don't care, then you're truly free from it. So you got to get to that point. And that's why I say the recovery takes about 6 months, is because of that. So you might feel pretty much fine after like 2 months, but to fully finish takes about 6 months. And then after that, you have to be careful to make sure that you don't have a lot of stressors right after your brain just healed. So being focused. I hope you find these videos helpful. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe. I do daily videos about all things OCD. If you'd like to do the recovery program, all the information is on youhaveocd.com. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.